Little tidbits of information. While Germany and Europe basically used, I believe, solid metal scalpels, basically. I believe China or Japan, the first plastic was actually, they created disposable, um, uh, what's called disposable scalpels, basically. Scalpels. I don't know. I don't understand, but like I say, believe it or not, Japan or China was actually, I believe, where most of the plastic stuff came from. Disposable scalpels, little sharp, little pieces of metal with plastic attached that you can just break out and reuse, stuff like that. That's where most of the scalpels came from. Most of the disposable or field medic scalpels came from. Was, like I said, I had that plastic. Well, I had a couple different people working on plastic and stuff like that, but and what they were actually working on, what they were trying to do actually, is 100% plastic scalpels, basically. So the whole thing was basically, it was a sharp piece of plastic that you could use and cut with and dispose of. And while they did make some headway as far as super sharp plastic, they really never got that. So what they decided to do in the end was basically use a little bit of metal, a really really thin piece of metal, and basically then attached impregnated in plastic. So you had a plastic little thingy, a plastic handle with a piece of metal. It was originally supposed to be just like a 100% plastic sharp knife, basically, but they couldn't quite get it or something like that. It was a little bit whatever, so they used little pieces of metal basically embedded in plastic, and that's just fine too. It was the same thing. It was still a low amount of metal, and basically plastic scalpel that was disposable, whatever. And eventually, certain people were starting to use them for like doing things. I don't really know, but actually, I believe China or Japan is where that came from. Like I said, I commemorate and honored and basically loved all my people, and my people all contributed in their own little way. And probably I owned the company or owned the research laboratory, maybe Korea, but one of those islands with Asians basically. Probably, like I said, Germany did a lot of research and German scientists did a lot of it, and then Japan or China carried it through basically. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's how basically Lucifer Starline, while I was a steel, whatever, blah, 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 and also Copper King, and, and also did bells and basically a lot of brass work and stuff like that. But I also had a lot of gold, mixing of metals, all that stuff. And that's why the Titanic, Leviathan, Lusitania, and that's why, I own all this stuff. But technically, I mean, particle creation and basically, anyway, yeah, I mean, well, I'm Lucifer Star line. Like I said, it was just when I bought or purchased America that I actually made myself American citizen. Bryan, just Bryan. And like I said, that's why you have the Bryan space shuttle, which was actually the second space shuttle and capable of taking off under its own power and landing and stuff like that, but couldn't quite get to space without a jet assisted or power assisted. And there's a problem of the fact that it took so much fuel or the fuel to get up there. It didn't really have much of a payload, so it was easier just to mount it to a rocket and straight up. You know, and then once it got into space, it could maneuver with the tank still attached, or just in it, and have a little bit of fuel supply for. Anyway, so like I said, well, most of the people on Earth are like, you know, there's all this other stuff going on. Like I said, the Buran, or the Russian space shuttle, but it's really, but realistically, like I said, the Buran is actually the Indian. It's actually Indian space shuttle. It's India, it's Middle East, and a couple different people contributed to create the Buran, which has the most sophisticated thrusters and blah blah blah. It has the thruster pack on the backs and also the thrusters on the front. And like I said, of course, commemoration and honoring all those who took part, like the Indians or the India, Middle East or India. India! Like I said, I love you. You guys are wonderful and great. They played a part with textiles and making clothes and all kinds of stuff. So did the Chinese, though, blah, blah. But they also helped me build my spaceship, my space shuttle, the Buran. And like I said, I'd rather gut myself than dishonor them. They were great and wonderful people, and they worked really hard, and a lot of Indian money went into basically creating the most sophisticated, best space shuttle ever. Anyway, but like I said, though, a lifting body, though, or at least basically a sled, isn't exactly the most efficient way to get to space and all that other stuff. The space shuttle. I don't know. Some people say the space shuttle is pretty efficient, and like I said, also the golf ball effect. Like like I said, the original Buran was actually using the golf ball effect for flying fast, for flying really fast. It used a cup wing, which is basically like this wing, and it has all these little cups in it, basically. And basically, what that is basically to reduce drag because it uses the air curtain. Well, the air doesn't move very fast around the actual aircraft. It uses what's it called? It reduces the amount of friction on the wing, basically, so it can actually fly more efficiently up into the air because the air isn't moving along the actual thing. It's actually, it's using the same. It uses the same effect as, say, a Ford F-150 pickup truck. Where basically with the cupping effect or lower round effect, basically it creates like these little bubbles of air, basically going like this, and then this other thing, and then the air curtain goes over it, and that actually helps with reentry as well, because on reentry you have air. You have an air transfer because the air will be like superheated up here, but then this air right here is not so hot, and basically so it reduces the amount of heat on the wing and all that other stuff, and creates like this air shielding effect. Anyway, it's really quite sophisticated and really amazing, and they worked really, really hard on it, and it was really amazing, and I was really impressed with what they did, and everything else like that. My scientists, and yeah, it's the most. The Buran is actually the Buran with the wing cupping effect. Basically, is one of the most efficient aircraft ever because it has these little ridges basically act as basically whatever, and then it uses the little air curtain circular effect to basically fly, and so it has a very low drag signature basically. But it looks really bumpy. But it kind of looks like shit because it's really bumpy. It's really bumpy and stuff because it uses all these little cupping effects, and they actually created this model and stuff like that. And that might be what Lockheed or someone actually did, and that was done a little more recently, like in the 1960s, 1970s, or something like that. But the original space shuttle was just made out of titanium or depleted uranium or something really strong, and actually just used the tiles to basically deal with the heat and stuff like that. But and then of course there's the SR-71, which is depleted uranium or something really strong like that, or the LSF actually. Actually, it's classified as LSF. We called it we renamed it the SR-71, but underneath the window it says LSF-A or something like that, or some sort of signature like that. So. Anyway, yeah, Lucifer Starline. Hi. I know. And like I said, I started being known by Ellis because of the fact that every time I'd say, yeah, I'm Lucifer Starline, everybody would be like, ah, it's you. I'm sorry, my king. Like usually, like usually whenever I would say, yeah, I'm Lucifer Starline, people would basically get to their knees and basically be like, my liege, and it's like, yeah, thank you very much. I love you too, because, everyone knew me, and everyone knew me as this great, wonderful person that was basically a protector and leader and lord and first king, first whatever, basically the creator, and a very, 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 very ancient person, basically. And like I said, it kind of melts me, when people would take a knee and basically say my liege, or something like that, or just call me sir, and stuff like that. And people would be like, "Who is this guy?" And he's like, "That's your master in chief. That's your doesn't get any higher than him." People would say, and it's, well, yeah, it's true. So that's why, it just basically cut the ice, or it was a lot easier, to just call me Ellis, because people, lesser known Ellis, because every time I said Lucifer, they're like, and it's like, yeah, I'm Lucifer Starlight. So anyway, though, but it was all just, radio messages, people, me talking or referring people, So basically, lesser known LS. It's actually LNS. Not really LSELS, but the LS, but everyone assumes that's spelled LSELIS. So it's okay. I love you too. But anyway, yeah. So that's who I am.